They're finished in my book, completely. You can't undo what has been done. And it's no good, making platitudinous statements about, oh, well, we'll engage with you now and we'll listen to what you've got to say. It's all nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. They are empty words. These big six don't understand, even now, the tidal wave, the tsunami of anger that they have unleashed against themselves. They all need to go, all six of them.
Glazers gonna die. How we kill him, I don't know. Cut him off from head to toe. All I know is Glazers gonna die.
I'm speaking directly to you now, Glazer brothers. You've taken £1 billion out of this football club, either servicing your debt interest or your personal dividends. Don't you think that's enough? It's time to go. And I'm asking you, I'm pleading with you, do the right thing. Sell this football club to real football people and go and spend your money elsewhere.
Gonna die! Gonna die! John Glazer's gonna die!
The man's got to go. His family have got to go. They've got to go. Go, go. If you're listening to me, Mr. Glazer, come and talk to me. I'll tell you what football's really all about.
United! 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 United!
Sir Alex Ferguson, it's now time to stand up for your principles. So please, tell the world how you feel. You shouldn't be invisible. You should be speaking your mind, because people would listen to you.
Oh, United, we love you. We love United. We do.
A gesture would be now to say, look, we've made a mistake, which is an understatement. We've got it wrong. Here is 25% of our holding. 25.1% in fact, to show that we are legitimately concerned and we are legitimately aware of the passion and the feeling and the ill feeling we've now generated. Here is 25.1% of our shareholding absolutely free gratis.
Hello, I'm John Gubber and welcome to my channel. This is Man United, the Religion, and today I'm joined once again by Michael Knighton, the man who nearly bought Manchester United back in 1989. And Michael, thanks for joining us once again. And last time I was here we talked about Manchester United, the Glazers and the state of football, and a lot has changed since then.
We want Glazers out! We want Glazers out! We want Glazers out! We want Glazers out!
Tell me, how do you see the situation now then?
Well, things have more than changed. I think what's happened, John, with the absurd and ill-conceived English Super League, they have driven themselves into a tipping point. They have crystallised, for me anyway, the whole situation and exposed themselves as people who are just interested in money. I think it has been a massive eye-opener for everyone, most importantly the fans, because the fans are what matter. This has always been the people's game, always been the fans' sport. The Glazers and the other so-called Big Five, so the Big Six owners didn't understand the heritage, the passion, the feeling of the ordinary fan in the stand, and they are now reaping the harvest of these foul seeds that they've sown. It takes me back just 6 months because it's rather reminiscent, if you can remember, the project Big Picture, which we had just 6 months ago, where again the so-called Big Six kept the other 14 clubs completely in the dark and plan to really carve out a power grab for themselves. These Big Six don't own football. They don't control the game, even if they think they do. So it's crystallised a lot of things for me. My view of the Glazers has changed from 6 months ago. I thought I gave a very measured and very balanced, very fair view when you asked me those questions, John, because there's always two sides to a story, but there's only one side here, and the side is firmly with the fans. It's a complete and utter anathema to me why these 6 owners, virtually all of whom are foreign, and I think we could come on to that because foreign ownership now at the highest level is causing deep concern, certainly for people like me. I think foreign ownership should be restricted at some level. Certainly for people who don't have a pedigree understanding of football, and these people clearly don't. For them to think these 3 Americans at Manchester United and the ownership at Liverpool with John Henry, and of course the Arsenal owner, 3 Americans thinking that they can just import the system from the States to the great game of English football shows you how off-piste they are. They are completely out of kilter. They don't understand the game. They don't understand the heritage, the concept of the jeopardy, relegation, promotion, the dream of it all, that Accrington Stanley could one day be top of the tree. They don't understand this concept. And I dread to think what William McGregor would be thinking in 1888 when he founded the English Football League. I dread to think what William McGregor would be thinking. But for me, John, this has been a disaster. The trust has gone. I could never trust the Glazer ownership of Manchester United again, or the ownership of the other big 6. They are purely interested in the balance sheet and their own finances and nothing else. And the trust has gone for me. It is a tipping point. I'm a man who believes in small government for 99.9% of my life, but I do agree with those now who are calling for some kind of government intervention legislation. I think there should always be a fan representative on board in the boardroom. I think they should hold a minimum of 25.1%. Corporate lawyers will know what I mean by 25.1%. That's a critical percentage of any equity stake, because the owners must always refer to that shareholder block that owns more than 25%, so 25.1%. And perhaps government legislation should make a special case of football, because they are community assets. They are about heritage. They are so important to local communities and many, many thousands of people. So for me, this has been, as I keep saying, it's a tipping point and a crystallization point. The Glazers must answer for this. When they came 16 years ago in 2005, the father of the 3 sons, Malcolm Glazer, they purchased Manchester United just for a shade under £800 million. They bought a company, great football club, which was debt-free, with a fabulous corporate infrastructure, with a fantastic global brand. And from day one, they lumbered this great football club with 500 million, I think it was 540 million worth of leveraged debt. Debt which the club didn't have. They leveraged some of that debt against the club's assets. They were paying extortionate interest rates at the time, between 7 and 20%. Everyone for the last 10 years knows where interest rates are today, with the bank base rate being the lowest it's been since the Bank of England was formed. The servicing costs of that during their reign has been, together with dividends they've paid themselves, and they've taken £90 million out of the club, or there or thereabouts, over the last 5-7 years. So you're looking at £1 billion out of the company, just for the privilege of they owning Manchester United. This must be questioned. For me, they are now trying to make platitudes. They've been invisible. When we spoke last year, 6 months ago, John, I said, well, they need to engage with fans. they've been completely invisible for 16 years. They have not liaised and engaged and allowed the fans to participate. They've been in complete isolation. They've been absent landlords, absent owners. These are not football people, John. And, I'll sit down and debate with them about anything they want to do with football, but unless you engage with your fans, you've got a problem. And for those trolls out there will say, oh, listen to Michael Knighton wittering on about fan participation. Well, they've got short memories, because they're now referring, when I owned Carlisle United, in 1995, I took a 2 full-page spread in a broadsheet, the Cumberland News, and said I want to be the first football cooperative. And I offered the fans to own the football club. And I did say I would apply for the chief exec's job. This is all a matter of record. So before you trolls jump and somersault to your computer to get on what a hypocrite I am, you need to get your facts straight. So I'm not jumping on any bandwagon here. The fans need to become part of their local football club up and down the country. But Manchester United, for me, my views have now changed in 6 months via this absurd idea of the European Super League. It's been driven by the European clubs and the big six here. Most of the European big clubs are in serious debt, so they wanted to exit themselves best they could from this debt, which they, via their mismanagement to some degree, have allowed to accrue. So clearly, it's time for the Glazers not to sort it out, but just to go and sell. And they should sell to football people. And the new owners should have at least a minimum of 25.1% to the fans.
You've come up with a very fascinating new insight there, which a lot of people, I'm sure, have not actually registered with them, because a lot of people that are talking about football at the moment are not business people. But you're bringing something new to the table from what I can see, from what I've understand from what you just said, in that you're saying really 25.1% is enough to shackle the owners, to prevent them from making major changes that the fans don't agree with. Just explain a little bit more detail what you mean there.
Anyone that owns 25.1% of any limited company or PLC, the majority shareholders must refer all major decisions by calling a shareholders meeting and listening to what the 25.1% shareholder has to say. And if they vote against a motion that's put forward, then the majority shareholder has to take very, very serious consideration of that view. At the moment, we've got owners of the 6 biggest clubs in this country who, quite honestly, don't give tuppence. They don't give a monkey's fig about this and about the heritage and about every football fan's ambitions and affection for their own local community club, or even just the club they support. These big 6 are not interested in that. And again, I'll put on record, the reason I resigned as a Manchester United director in 1992, I resigned because of the noises that were coming out of the then Big Five. I didn't like what Philip Carter and Martin Edwards and Irving Scholar, followed by Alan Sugar, David Dean and others were saying. I believed in the concept of having the greatest league in the world and, of course, increasing revenue. Of course, that was essential. But it's what you do with that revenue and how you distribute it down the pyramid. I left, as a matter of record, I resigned from the glamorous portals at Old Trafford to the gusty corridors of Brunton Park, and I bought Carlisle United, who were then 92nd in the Football League, finished bottom of the whole tree. The reason they didn't get relegated because I think Aldershot had gone into liquidation. So I stood by my principles, and I went there. They were losing up to £8,000, certainly many £1,000s a week. They were in serious trouble. So there's no question in my mind that the distribution of the TV revenues in particular are out of kilter. Of course, the biggest piece of the pie should go to the Premier League, but not at the level that it has been distributed ever since its inception in 1992. I believe 50 or 60% of the revenue should be spread down the rest of the professional football league and then filter down right down to grassroots. And at the moment it doesn't. And as for Rick Parry and I think Scudamore, who's retired, I used to have a lot of time for Scudamore, you know, but I listened to what he's got to say about this. And, you know, there's a man who I always thought was sort of a Sunday school teacher or a chapel minister. But he was happy to take 30 million quid and a 5 million golden goodbye when he left as chief executive. I'm not running Mr. Scudamore down, but what I am saying is, why hasn't he been more vociferous and said the whole concept is wrong? And as for the likes of Rick Parry supporting the Project Big Picture, it's just an anathema to me. I don't understand it at all, because it's just fostering the interests of the richest clubs in the land at the expense of the smaller clubs. And for he to argue differently is anti-intellectual. It's a philosophy that is absurd and doesn't make sense. And I've listened to how he tries to justify his current stance. Well, to me, it's intellectually flawed, it's financially flawed, but more importantly, it is fan flawed, because fans are getting a poor deal down the pyramid. There's no question about that.
Again, a lot of fascinating insight there, Michael. And fans will be loving hearing you say that you think it's time for the Glazers to go. But the big question is, how do we get the Glazers to go? You've mentioned the 25.1% potential for getting them to surrender control by having fan ownership of 25.1%. But how do we get that to happen? You've talked about being possibly in favour of government intervention, but what do you think the likelihood of something like that is going to be? I mean, do you think the fans need to keep protesting? What do you think the next step is going to be for the fans?
Look, let me put on record straight away. I'm absolutely against anyone who thinks they can use criminal damage or violence or levels of protesting which are clearly to be outlawed, and I would be the first to condemn that sort of behaviour. But I do understand the fans' frustration, and sometimes they feel, well, a semi-riot is all we can do. I mean, at the moment, Old Trafford is a prison camp. It's surrounded by a cordon of fencing and police. Goodness gracious me, what have we come to? You know, this is Old Trafford. This is the theatre of dreams. You know, all the doors and gates should be open for people to walk in and smell the atmosphere and to drink in the pure excitement of it all. At the moment, it's like a concentration camp. It's ludicrous. And the Glazers are to blame for this, together with their compatriots, the other 5 clubs. And the reason they are to blame for this is they are not football people. They don't understand the game. And, you know, I'm not going to apologise for my passion about this, because I'm angry. And you know me, John, I don't get angry very often. I've got a very long fuse about most things. But I'm livid with what they have tried to do, largely behind closed doors. By the way, just like the Project Big Picture was done behind closed doors, the Big Six did not consult with the other 14. And they've done this in secret powwows, where they've wanted to get their snout in the deep trough even deeper. I mean, how much money do these people want at the expense of the ordinary football fan and the smaller clubs? I mean, for goodness sake, this is a tipping point. It's a crossroads. And just like the 1980s, the latter end, you know, we had the awful, horrendous milestones of the Bradford fire in May, oddly enough, this very month, in 1985. We then had the Brussels, the Hazel disaster, horrible disasters. Again, in May, 29th of May, 1985. Then, of course, we had, 15th of April, 1989, the Hillsborough disaster. The horrendous disaster, when 96 lovely football fans went to a football game to enjoy themselves and never came home. That was more than a tipping point. Now, here no one's died, of course, and one shouldn't try and put it on the same level as those horrendous travesties. and tragic circumstances for those poor families that lost loved ones. But I'll tell you what, emotionally, and to get the hackles raised, these big six don't understand, even now, the tidal wave, the tsunami of anger that they have unleashed against themselves. They all need to go, all six of them. There's no two ways about that. They need to go. Let's get football people in who appreciate the heritage, the jeopardy factor, the emotion of it all, and the history. And I'm not just being sentimental. You know, people need 90 minutes every weekend if they're a football fan to go and escape and support their team. They don't want it behind their back and over their shoulder. Well, next year it might not be here because we'll have no money because 6 foreign owners have got their snouts so deep in the trough they're choking on money. It's got to stop. And I'm angry. And Joel Glazer's come out and made, platitudes. I think he's spoken 2 or 3 times in 16 years. I think there's an apology each time. The man's got to go. His family have got to go. They've got to go. Go. If you're listening to me, Mr. Glazer, come and talk to me. I'll tell you what football's really all about. My family have been involved in this game for more than 100 years. My great-grandfather, professional, Sheffield Wednesday. I was wouldn't say a professional, but certainly an apprentice myself as a 15, 16-year-old. I'm a football person through and through, and I understand every fan's anger. And these foreign owners, they've exposed themselves for what they are. They're just money men. And that's it. End of story. So, to answer your question, John, about intervention, yes, the government, I hate to say this, to ask government to get involved, because I'm a small state man and a complete libertarian. And they will be treading on dangerous territory as legislators if they think they can start to interfere with private companies. This is a private company. We mustn't forget that. But it's a private company with responsibility and huge power. With power comes huge responsibility. And the Glazers have abused that responsibility for their own needs. And I'm speaking directly to you now, Glazer brothers. You've taken £1 billion out of this football club, either servicing your debt interest or your personal dividends. Don't you think that's enough? It's time to go. And I'm asking you, I'm pleading with you, do the right thing. Sell this football club to real football people and go and spend your money elsewhere. Because frankly, we've had enough of you. I can't put it more strongly than that. Just go.
A lot of Man United fans in particular will rejoice to hear those words. But the Glazers will say that, OK, they've not spoken for 16 years and they've come out along with the other big six owners and apologised and promised to make things better in the future. From what you're saying, it's too late.
It's too late. The trust is gone. And as I say, they've exposed themselves for... this was a massively ill-conceived project of the first magnitude. They've exposed themselves, their naivety, their lack of understanding. You can't undo what has been done. And it's no good, making platitudinous statements about, oh, well, we'll engage with you now and we'll listen to what you've got to say. It's all nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. They are empty words. And if these people were serious, they would have got on an aeroplane, even in COVID times, because it is business after all, so they could have flown. They've all got private jets anyway, and they could have sat down in front of cameras with fan groups and debated it properly and sensibly and said, look, we've got this wrong. They've never engaged with fans. They don't intend engaging with fans. Their principal business, in America has been shopping centres and property. And now, they just so happen to own the greatest football club in the world. With all respect to Real Madrid and Barcelona and Bayern Munich and Uwe, I don't care. Manchester United is the greatest. It's the most magical football club in the world. I've said this before, but it is. And they have upset the likes of me, trust me. They're finished in my book, completely. And I am a very forgiving man. But not this time. I think they've gone too far.
Being devil's advocate for a moment, though, the problem will be Obviously, the football club is valued at £4 billion, possibly more. And there's not that many people on the planet who can afford that. And the Glazers have said they will come forward and meet with the fans and discuss it after the Europa League final. And Must, who have been leading that campaign to have dialogue, they've actually got them to the negotiating table. So do we need to keep our options open and have some sort of dialogue? We know what we want. I know what you want. I know what you've said. It's fantastic. And a lot of fans will agree with you 100%. But being pragmatic, we have to keep talking to them, don't we?
You have to keep talking. You know, it's always better to jaw in rather than war. Of course it is, and I'm all for jaw. But you know, a gesture would be now to say, look, we've made a mistake, which is an understatement. We've got it wrong. Here is 25% of our holding, 25.1% in fact, to show that we are legitimately concerned. And we are legitimately aware of the passion and the feeling and the ill feeling we've now generated. Here is 25.1% of our shareholding, absolutely free gratis. Let's set up a football trust. There's already in existence. Plenty of Man United vehicles where they could gift. I'm talking about a gift here. So there's no taxation implications. It's straight gift. They could gift 25.1% into a trust just for the benefit of showing to the fans that they are serious about appreciating their emotional attachment, about appreciating their loyalty, about appreciating the fans' commitment over often family generations, going back to, you know, Newton Heath days, often. That's what they could do. And of course, it's an option. My preference would be for they to go all together because they're just not football people. They should just go. But at least they could, and I'd be the first to acknowledge if they did that. I'd say, well, hang on. Now you're making a statement that has clout. Now you're making a statement that makes me sit up and think, okay, as a forgiving man, despite what I've just said about I can't forgive them, if they give 25.1% to a fans group now, I would shake their hand and I would say, good on you, well done. That's a start. And I now believe you. But at the moment, I don't believe them. I don't trust them. And I don't think they will ever understand what a real, genuine English football fan is and what his football club means to you, often the entire family. So that's a start. And you're right, John. Yes, you've got to jaw rather than war. But let's see some real action. At the moment, we've just seen a fortress created around Old Trafford ground. We've just seen platitudes and empty words. Come on, Joel Glazer. Let's sit down and talk face to face and get it sorted. Because it needs sorting out.
One does sense that the Glazers have finally got the message because they've actually broken the silence after 16 years, and I think they're actually a little bit worried because they don't know what's going to happen because there could be government intervention. There is obviously pressure for fan ownership. 25.1% is obviously a high price to pay, but maybe they could see the errors of their way. I mean, it would be fantastic. I'm sure every single fan would love to be gifted a chance to get a percentage of that. But in the meantime, I've worked with Manchester United for over a decade, and I know how difficult it is for people who work with the football club to stand up and criticise the football club, or at least the football club owners. A lot of people who work at Manchester United do very much sympathise with the fans, and they can't come out publicly and say what they think because they've got a job, they've got to protect their jobs. Even Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, he has to be careful what he says. But a lot of people have given him a little bit of stick, but I want to praise him. Gary Neville has come out and he's been very vociferous and spoken very strongly about Manchester United and the ownership. And it's really because the owners have crossed the line this time. And how important do you think it is to have people like Gary Neville and other influential people to come out and to say what they really think?
My dear friend, Alex Ferguson, why aren't you sitting in front of a camera with me? Because you're a good man, Alex. I think you're a great man. You are, for me, the greatest manager. 38 trophies you brought to the Red Devils. Your record is astonishing. absolutely astonishing. But let's forget the 38 trophies. Because in life, it's a piece of tin at the end of the day. You've had your ups and downs, Alex, and I hope you're well, by the way, because I know you've not enjoyed the best of health these last few years. But look, Alex, I'm saying, where are you? Because you're not a man who is invisible. You're a strong, strong man. Boy, do I know that. You are a strong character. But why am I giving the Glazers the hairdryer treatment and not you? Because I know you're a good man. You're a good socialist, so you believe in cooperative movements. Come on, Alex, sit with me. No matter how much it might grate with you, sit with me, and you should be shouting the same song as I'm singing. We should be sharing the same hymn sheet, because I know what you feel. Because I know in your heart you will have had grave reservations about this European Super League. I know you, Alex. And I can say this with a degree of legitimacy and a degree of authority. We've sat together in the same boardroom. I was there before you'd won a tin pot. Don't you forget that, Mr. Ferguson. I was there when they were shouting for your head. God bless you. And when I joined Manchester United, I said, who am I to question Alex Ferguson? Because you smashed the mould in Scottish football away from Glasgow Rangers and Celtic with unfashionable Aberdeen. You were a genius. You won 3 Scottish championships and 4 or 5 cups. You even won the European Cup Winners' Cup at Aberdeen. That is genius, Alex. You're a god as far as I'm concerned. But look, you are a god and I'm praying to you. Where are you? You shouldn't be invisible. You should be speaking your mind because people would listen to you. You have a lot more clout than you did when you and I were co-directors and working together. And I know we had completely different departments. But you will remember, Alex, because I've mentioned it before, when I was beckoned into that, we toddled off into the side room and you asked me to sanction the purchase of Gary Pallister when the chairman, Martin Edwards, wouldn't go above 1.8. It was Michael Knighton who said, well, I'll tell you what, Alex, go out, tell him at Middlesbrough it's sanctioned. You can spend what it costs, 2.3 million. Yes, chicken feed, I know. But I'll tell you what, Alex, it was a British record at the time. And Michael Knighton gave you that permission. Well, Michael Knighton now is sitting asking you, where the hell are you? Come and sit with me, Alex, and say what your heart wants to sing. Because I know you will not agree with the European Super League. And I know your own financial status is a long way from where it was in 1989, 1991, 92 when we were working together. But let me tell you this. You now have the global reach as a statesman and a spokesman for this industry because of your magnificent achievements. And whatever anyone says, Alex, I don't care what they say, but I played my part in laying those foundations for you. And I'm asking you, as one of the bricklayers that put those bricks down for your foundation, for you to speak your mind. Forget about vested interest, forget about being a co-director, forget about loyalty, forget about being in the boardroom. Follow your principles, because I know, Alex, you are a man of principle. You really are, I know that. You're a good man, and I love you dearly. I really do. And the respect I have for you is enormous. But Alex, come on. Sir Alex Ferguson, it's now time to stand up for your principles. So please, tell the world how you feel. And I know you'll be peeved at me saying all this to you, but I don't care. But I am giving them the Ferguson. I'm giving your chairman and your owners, I'm giving them the Alex Ferguson hairdryer treatment. That's what I'm giving your colleagues. Anyway, I hope you're well, Alex. I really do. And I know your lovely wife, Kath, who's always remained in the background. Lovely, lovely lady. A lovely family. Anyway, look, that's enough. What I've said is this. Joel Glazer, have a word with your siblings, pack your bags, and please leave Old Trafford, collect your money off the table. You don't need to really collect 4 billion. Can't let it go for 3 billion or even 2.5, but just let it go. And you've had your fill. Let's let people who understand the game of football and what it's like. It's not the game of soccer. This is English football. And fans have told you how they feel. So you either go, or a wonderful gesture to say, yeah, you're serious. There's 25.1% today. Let's try and push that sharing up a little bit. We'll show you how serious we are. You don't need any more money. You're all multimillionaires. So I'll watch this space with great intrigue and see if this whole episode actually has a reasonable ending. I'll keep my fingers not crossed, but my heart is open that you do the right thing.
Michael, some absolutely fantastic, strong statements there. I'm sure Man United fans around the world will be thrilled to hear some of the things that you've said today. I'd just like to say thanks for having us back. Thanks for talking to us about Manchester United and football in general. And we'll look forward to how it changes and coming back next time to see how the story unfolds. So thank you, Michael Knighton. Thanks for being with us.
My pleasure, John, and thank you very much. And fingers crossed it all works out for everyone.